G'day everyone and welcome to episode number 22 of the Australian Rock Show. My name is Dennis Gray from the Rockin' and Rollin' Gray Brothers. Today is Saturday the 6th of June 2015 when this show is being recorded. Lost Wax was a column which we ran when my brother and I published Vicious Kitten fanzine back in the mid-90s. Its aim was to highlight killer albums which were largely overlooked. I've received a couple of emails recently from listeners suggesting we review some overlooked Australian albums, so I thought resurrecting the Lost Wax concept seemed like a pretty good idea to me, so let's run with it. Released in 1990, the Lime Spiders' Beethoven's Fist record is a monster. All of the tracks weave in with each other so well, and I will quote my brother Colin who wrote, "This record stands as one of the most complete rock and roll albums to come out of Australia in recent times. This 10-song platter is chock full of loud, melody-laced, uncompromising rock and roll, and no real fan of rock and roll should be without it." Who better to chat about the songs on the Beethoven's Fist album than Phil Hall, a long-time Lime Spider who wrote a couple of tracks and also played the bass parts on the album, who we chatted with on the 4th of June. Before we look over the songs with Phil, let's get in the mood. Turn this one up nice and loud, folks. Here are the Lime Spiders with Scene of the Crime. Phil, welcome to the Australian Rock Show.
Great to be here, Dennis. Appreciate the opportunity.
Mate, today we have the Beethoven's Fist album under the spotlight. 10 tracks, released 25 years back and still sounding better than ever. It's a record which incidentally stayed on my turntable for weeks. And we kicked off today's show with the album opener, Scene of the Crime, written by Mick Blood and Gerard Corbin. And I don't think you guys could have picked a better track to start an album with, could you?
I loved the intro to that track. Was very powerful, and so we thought it was a natural fit. It was an opening track, yeah.
It was a ripper, and that was in the live set for a while too, from memory.
I think it probably still is in the live set occasionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And mate, next track was in fact a single from the album Cherry Red, penned by yourself and Mick Blood. Great rock and roll song. Was that Virgin's choice to choose Cherry Red as a single?
No, it was the band and our manager. We probably thought it wasn't the best track on the album to have as a single, but we kind of wanted to we thought there'd be more than one single, and so it wasn't like we were leading with our best choice. We kind of thought that this was a good song that would attract a bit of attention, and then maybe we'd put out something else later as that we thought was going to be the big hit single.
That was one of yours and Mick's, wasn't it? Was that floating around for a while, that track?
No, actually none of the material on the album was floating around for long. So this was the third studio album.
That's right.
And of course, by the time a band's been around for a few years and done 3 or 4 albums, when you get to that stage, you've used all your sort of back catalogue, and so everything was written for the album. And we demoed maybe 25 or 30 songs for the album, and then culled it down to our 10 favourites.
With Cherry Red, I can't remember, but I presume it would have entered the indie charts. Did it slip into the mainstream charts as well?
No, it did okay on the indie charts. It didn't make it into the mainstream charts. No.
Okay. Thanks for that. Let's hear Cherry Red now.
Great.
Next up is Real Thing, written by yourself, Mick, and there's a songwriting credit to C. Morrow. Was that Chris from The Numbers, Maybe Dolls?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay, good. Mate, this could be my favourite track on the album. Mick's distinctive vocals, sharp guitars, to the point lyrics, and great lyrics like, "If you see me in a limousine, I'll be the guy behind the wheel." I mean, what's not to like? Any thoughts on Real Thing, Phil?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Chris and I actually wrote that song. We were working together before I started playing with the Spiders, and we'd written a version of the song, and then when we were looking for material for Beethoven's Fist, I said, "Look, I've got this one. We haven't, it's never been recorded. What do you think?" And then Mick rewrote the lyrics, and we kept the chorus. The chorus was already written, but Mick put his own lyrics on there, and that's why Mick and Chris, I'm not even sure they'd met each other, but it was I brought half a song and then Mick put in the other half. But yeah, that was actually the song that our management thought we should have as the single, but they were kind of, they wanted to save that to be the second single, but a lot of things can happen along the way.
Now, the song 9 Miles High, that's another Mick Blood, Phil Hall tune, and another great line in there, incense burning to a Hendrix tune. Great guitar solo in this one too. Can you recall if that was Gerard or Mark Wilkinson who played guitar on that track?
The solo is Jared, yeah.
Okay. And that was also in the live set during this time too, I think.
Definitely. That one's never gone out of the live set. In fact, Mick often says that it's his favourite Lime Spiders song. He thinks it's in terms of a song that really sort of just hits you right between the eyes. His feeling is that we nailed it on that one.
Now, Kevin Shirley has made a name for himself as an in-demand producer, but he in fact cut his teeth on a host of local Aussie bands, including the Lime Spiders and including the album which we're highlighting today, which he produced and engineered. Good memories of working with Caveman, Phil?
Yeah, look, he was a great guy to be in the studio with. He was very, very good at guitar sounds, and he was just a professional. It was absolutely excellent.
So you were pleased with the finished product? What do you think he brought to the table?
Well, there's an interesting story about this, if you bear with me. He wasn't our choice of producer. We actually had lined up that Aerosmith's producer was going to do this. Kevin was going to do all the recording, and then all the mix down was going to be done by Aerosmith's producer, who was working with them on Pump at the time. And then we had studio time all booked, and he ended up running overtime on Pump and couldn't do it. He had to go and do a Poison album straight afterwards, would you believe?
Wow.
And so we missed out on having him do it. And, so Kevin wasn't actually our choice. But the funny thing is that, years later, he wound up producing a number one hit for Aerosmith. So we got Aerosmith's producer. We just didn't know it at the time.
Who was that? Bruce Fairbairn, from memory? I can't recall.
Yes.
Who did the Aerosmith? Okay,
yeah,
good. Phil, the tune Get Off at the Next Stop is fantastic. Nice little riff throughout the song, but it's mixed lyrics, again, which for me are the standout. He paints a picture with his words in this one, all about a mechanic or a blue-collar worker who has his eyes on a pretty woman who snubs him. And I think we can all relate to that at some point of our lives. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, look, that was a great track that, we all really liked that. That was actually, the version that's on there was actually the demo, we did demos in a sort of budget studio, and then we went into Rhinoceros to do the backtracks and, did fairly high-end stuff for the rest of it. But when it came to the crunch, we actually all decided that the demo sounded better. So if you listen to it, you'll probably notice it does sound a little different to the other tracks. But it's nice. It's a sort of fairly bluesy track, and Jed's guitar solo on that is just a killer. It's a very musical solo.
Phil, you were in the lineup which did a couple of Iggy Pop supports when he toured back in early '89. Good memories? Absolutely.
We were huge fans, and when we were offered the spot on the tour, we couldn't believe our luck. And for me, seeing Iggy Pop at the Horden show was, I couldn't have been happier if I was watching Jimi Hendrix. I was just so happy to be there. It was a great gig.
I recall I saw the band a bunch of times during this time period, and you did a couple of Dark Carnival, Hitmen, DTK shows. I also recall the band doing a Black Crow support at the Horden back in 1992, and then we headed straight to the Crow's Nest Hotel, how's my memory, for your latest slot, 2 gigs in one night. Bands don't do that anymore, mate. And from memory, Chris and Rich Robinson from the Black Crows had seen the band do a gig in the US, and a friendship was struck between the two bands. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like that. No, they were all record collectors too, and they liked the Spiders records. They but they asked us to do the shows. They specifically asked for the Lime Spiders. Mick and I were working together, but we didn't even have a band at the time, so we had to go out and find other people to play with us. And we actually, I think the agency and the touring company really wanted to have Mick Barker and the Reptiles opening, but we only got the spot because the Black Crows said, "No, look, this is our gig, and this is the band that we want there." So
nice.
That was very cool.
Okay, let's have a look at a couple more tracks on this record before we close out. The song Old Dog, New Tricks, really love this. Fantastic guitar solo again, and it sounds like something which wouldn't be out of place on a New Christ record. It's got, do you know what I mean? It's got that thumping bass part at the start. Nice time change in there too. Who wrote this?
That was Mick and Jed from memory, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It may even have been Mick on his own, actually. Mick may have written the chords himself. But there was, there's the writing credits, but there's a lot going on from sort of band teamwork as well. This was an album where we really put a lot of effort into working together. We took it seriously and worked really hard on it, and I think Jed's guitar work on the whole album is just incredibly good.
It is. It's phenomenal. And look, let's hear that now, folks. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Lime Spiders there with Old Dog New Tricks. Phil, apart from publications like Sydney's On the Street, I can't recall seeing much press at the time for this album. Did Virgin do much to promote it?
No, we were kind of in a bit of a limbo. So when the album came out, it actually came out in Europe maybe 6 months before it came out in Australia. Sounds magazine rated it album of the week when it came out and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. New Musical Express gave it a 9 out of 10 review. And it was, we definitely had all the press thing going on over there. But we only ever did like a 2-week English tour, and we were supposed to come back and tour with the Lemonheads and Jane's Addiction. And Jed left the band at a really awkward time. We didn't get back there. When the album came out in Australia, we didn't even have a band, so it was pretty hard to promote it. So it was, I like to think it was a great record, but we didn't really get it right in terms of supporting the record.
Mate, the tune Three Wise Men, co-penned by Mick and drummer Richard Lawson. As a songwriter, Richard wasn't very prolific, and I know he also co-wrote a tune called Can't Hear You Anymore of Volatile. But this tune, Three Wise Men, is pretty darn good.
Yeah, it was a good song. And Richard had a fair few songs when we did the 25 songs worth of demos. He put a few in there. And I think he's really honed his songwriting skills since then. He's done a lot of solo albums. I don't know if you've heard any of them, but he's done quite a bit.
Lime Spiders there with Three Wise Men. Phil, thank you for your time today and for sharing your memories of recording the Beethoven's Fist album. It's been really nice to talk with you. What have you been up to musically these days?
I play a lot of jazz these days. I'm pretty eclectic in my taste, and I do quite a lot of jazz gigs. Last night I played a gig with Mike Kahn from Dragon and Mendel's Anything on guitar and Barton Price on drums, and we're putting together an act that doing sort of fairly hard rock stuff, but I'm not hard rock in the Lime Spiders vein, but it's certainly not jazz.
Well, mate, I hope this episode achieves its purpose, which is to turn people, new sets of ears, onto a great album from a great Australian rock and roll band. Phil, thanks again.
Thanks, Dennis. It was great to catch up with you again, and I hope we'll bump into each other somewhere soon.